You are indeed on RPP FM. Hello, everyone. This is Peninsula Talks. It's our Wednesday edition. It's Wednesday, the 28th of February. My goodness gracious me, that month has just blasted out of here. Good to have your company. Stick around for the next 2 hours. Peninsula Talks all the way through until 1 o'clock today. Big show in prospect as well. RPP FM, Peninsula Talks, of course, it is the people. It's the concerns, it's the issues across Mornington, Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. And today on the program, well, we're going to be taking a special look at some Dunkley candidates ahead of the by-election this weekend. Jody Bellier and the Australian Democrats' Heath McKenzie as well. Jody Bellier, of course, seemingly in the box seat, in the crucial bellwether seat, defending a 6.3% margin. That's her lead. Seems that those numbers might be tightening. How she's seeing the situation. Pre-polling, of course, is already underway. What's the situation down in Dunkley? We'll find out shortly. And also Heath McKenzie, part of the new generation, trying to channel the great Don Chip for a third way in Australian politics. Where are the Australian Democrats at the moment? And what hopes do they have as they head into the weekend as well? RPP FM across the Greater Mornington Peninsula. Good to have your company on the two frequencies, 98.7, 98.3. Genuine local radio coming to you from the Bendigo Bank Chair here in Wilson's Road today. Good to have your company and hope you can stick around for the rest of the big show today. Peninsula Talks, the issues, the concerns and the people of the Greater Mornington Peninsula. And as we have been in the first half hour of the program, speaking all things Dunkley, perhaps appropriate that we introduce another one of our candidates who is standing up for the Australian Democrats. On the line, we've got Heath McKenzie. Heath, welcome to RPP FM. Welcome to Peninsula Talks.
Thanks very much for having me.
Heath, the Australian Democrats, I mean, obviously you have history. We heard a lot about them a number of years ago. They're still a thing?
Absolutely, yes, still very much an ongoing concern. Our National Executive President is former Senator Lynn Allison. A lot of the same people who were heavily involved with the party are still involved. We've had a really good injection of young talent come into the party in terms of the behind-the-scenes operations of the party. They've done a great job of modernising the look and feel of the party, and we're very much keen to have a presence in Canberra and other places around the country.
Obviously, you know, the political landscape down here in Dunkley over the last month or so has been dominated by the two primary parties. Does that bother you? Does it concern you?
Oh, look, it is frustrating, and I commend your organisation because you've been fantastic at giving an equal share to all the candidates, which is fantastic. The networks and even the ABC have been a little bit stacked towards the major candidate, which I understand. I mean, historically they do share the lion's share of the vote. But, you know, as a minor candidate, it does get a little bit difficult to get some traction. So I certainly appreciate your time and giving us this exposure.
Okay, well, let's sort of drill down into the seat of Dunkley then. I mean, we've got a media release from you issued by the Australian Democrats. It looks like you concentrate more on the bigger policy issues that are affecting Australia. What about specifically down here in Dunkley?
Look, that's true. I mean, we do have, obviously, you know, in a by-election, we've got set party policies that are pre-existing. I have, you know, obviously my own personal priorities and my own values that help from a local perspective. But what I tell people is that national issues, they have a real impact on people in local areas. So just because it is a national issue doesn't mean it doesn't affect. So when we talk about cost of living, absolutely, that's being felt in Dunkley as much as anywhere else. So things like gambling reform that we're very strong about, that's a massive problem in the Dunkley electorate. So just because it is a national issue doesn't mean it has no ramifications in the local area.
Well, those two issues, of course, were sort of pretty dear to the heart of Peter Murphy, who, of course, sadly died and is the reason why we got this by-election. I mean, she chaired that inquiry into online gaming and gambling and was a very fierce advocate for it.
Absolutely. And, I guess this is a great opportunity for me to say, and I have said it before in this campaign, that I was a massive fan of Peter's work in the community. I may not have agreed with, with a lot of what her party does, but as a local member, I don't think there was any harder working local candidate or local member out of the 150 that are up there in Canberra, and particularly on gambling reform. She did a great body of work there and put together 31 recommendations in the report. I think it's a blight on her legacy. We've seen the Labor Party coming out. All the MPs are coming down from Canberra, probably at taxpayers' expense, and telling us how Jodie Bellier is going to continue on the legacy of Peter Murphy. But I think, whilst I think that sort of is a bit distasteful, I also think it's just a horrible thing when they've got this report sitting there gathering dust on Anthony Albanese's desk. If they want to honour that legacy, they need to really get acting on it. He's saying now that, he's going to have these conversations. He's going to talk to people. Well, the report, that's what the report's for. They've already had those conversations. It's now time to act on that report.
Interesting, isn't it? Because in the lapsed time, we're estimating here at the radio station, probably $61 million has been lost by the electorate or the Greater Mornington Peninsula, in that particular time as far as gambling and gaming is concerned.
That's a staggering figure, not surprising, unfortunately, but it's a blight on our society, and it's something that needs urgent action. We talk about cost of living, and for the most vulnerable people in the community, this is a big expense. Now it's an addiction, like all other addictions, like smoking, drinking, all these other things. And I noticed that the Libertarians are out there campaigning on getting rid of fuel excise and getting rid of the tax on alcohol and cigarettes, which, when you look at the harm these things do to society, I really don't think it's the time to be taking that money away. Yes, it's the more vulnerable people in society, but we actually need that money to address the harm. But with the gambling one, it's a little bit different because we don't need the money to address it. We just need to bring in some regulation. And, my kids watch sport. I watch sport with my kids, and they're just bombarded with ads on the telly about the odds, of whatever game we're watching. And I just think that's such an easy thing to be rid of really quickly. And certainly the pokies, we went years without having them, and the Victorian state government got dollar signs in their eyes and rolled them out all across the state, and now we're dealing with the ramifications of that, which is just a terrible situation.
Well, it's interesting. You're just about paraphrasing a conversation that we had with Peter Murphy late last year on that particular subject. Speaking here to Heath McKenzie from the Australian Democrats, standing in the seat of Dunkley. As I said, Heath, it looks like a lot of your policies are sort of national in terms of temperament and outlook, and those policies are pretty profound. I mean, abolish income tax on wage and salary earners under $45,000, change negative gearing, tax extreme wealth and excessive corporate profits, and implement a price on greenhouse gases at $30 per tonne. I mean, these are pretty significant policies.
They are, and one of the benefits of being a minor party is that we don't have to comprehensively cost these policies that we bring out. But when you look at the waste that's occurring with all the different things that they do in Canberra, we're seeing that there's a $40 million spend on advertising to try and sell to us that this stage 3 tax cut change is good for us, when all it is really it's something that should have been indexed to wage growth anyway. And now it's not addressing bracket creep, which is what it was designed to do, but then they've changed it so it doesn't do that. It's not cost of living relief. So no wonder they need to spend so much money on selling it. And, when you look at the AUKUS submarines and the amount of money being spent there on something that we're probably never going to get anyway, there's a lot of money there we can save, and we can really give some instant relief on cost of living. We may not be able to bring the cost of living down, but we can make it easier for people who are really struggling for them to meet that cost of living. And things like raising that tax-free threshold is a great way of doing that. We need a price on carbon. We had it, and then obviously the Liberal Party got rid of that, in a really horrible time for Australian politics. But this is the way the world's going. I think even Matthias Cormann has said in his new role that we should have a price on carbon, which is pretty rich, given he was part of the organisation when they got rid of it.
Well, just having listened to what you're saying there, I mean, at least you and Nathan Conroy seem to agree as far as your cynicism about the tax cuts are concerned.
Oh, look, absolutely. They should be indexed. I mean, the reason they're not indexed is because both major parties love to come out every few years and tell us they're giving us a tax cut, and it's just not the case. All they're doing is addressing bracket creep. But unfortunately, with these changes that the Labor Party made, they haven't even done that. And as as the Liberal Party are only too happy to tell us, it's $14 or $15 a week for people on the the median income in Dunkley. So I think there's. I can really see why they're having to do that. I actually met Stephen Conroy, albeit briefly, last night at the Cheeky Squire when we were doing the Sky News show with Paul Murray, which was an interesting experience. We had myself, Kristen Abraham and Nathan Conroy, and a room full of pretty bolted-on Liberal voters. So it was a bit of a, I don't know if I was the favourite candidate on the night, but it was certainly an enjoyable experience, and I was grateful to be able to get in front of a camera and push our policy platform out to the electorate.
Well, congratulations and good on your bravery, Heath. We're speaking here to Heath McKenzie from the Australian Democrats. I mean, Don Chipp would be very proud of your efforts and endeavours. I'm wondering then, you're getting out and about, you're meeting the electorate. What's your sense? What's your feeling? Where are they going? What are they thinking? And are they wise enough and cynical enough to understand what is going on as far as maybe some of these numbers and policies are concerned from the two bigger parties?
Yeah, look, from our point of view, we love that there is that growing. I mean, I don't love that there's this discontent, but it works in our favour that there is a discontent with the two major parties. I think, if you look at the last federal election, I think the first preference vote combined of the two major parties was around about 70%. I'm estimating that'll come down to around 65%. So the six minor parties or independents will share, that extra 35%. Of the first preference. Ultimately, and it's interesting, I've seen pre-polls, it's been getting quite willing between the Labor and Liberal Party, even just outside the pre-polls, and people are just tired of it. Unfortunately, what we've got are some real bolted-on Liberals and some dyed-in-the-wool Labor fans that just don't. I don't think they'll ever see the light and come across to organisations like ours. But certainly, I've got a really good network of friends and family and across the electorate, and I'm certainly getting a lot of support from them. And the word seems to be spreading, and opportunities like this that I'm having with you, Brendon, is obviously key to getting the word out there. And I'm hopeful that the message that we're putting out there will resonate with a lot of people. I mean, we need that centrist, moderate, rational, evidence-informed voice just to calm the conversation down a little bit, so we're not just shouting at each other from either side. And I feel like that's what's really lacking, and that's what the electorate are really after in Dunkley.
Are you going to get your deposit back?
I tell you what, so we need 4% for those that aren't in the know, which is I imagine most of your listeners who maybe aren't as engaged as what I am on these things. So 4% is the magic number for minor parties. If they can get 4% of the primary vote or first preference vote, you get a little bit of money back from the AEC to cover your campaign, which in our case is look, it's probably about, I think we'll spend maybe 2% of what the major parties will spend in this campaign. I mean, they're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe up to $1 million combined on this crucial by-election. That's obviously one target of ours. Look, the main objection of this campaign for us was really to bring awareness, not just on local issues from my point of view, but also just to remind people, as we said at the top there, we really need people to know that the Australian Democrats are still around and still, keeping the bastards honest, as we like to say. But we need that awareness, because across the political landscape, not just in Dunkley, but across Australia, we're really finding that, with the Teal independents that are having a great deal of success. I mean, their model is based off the Australian Democrats model. It's financial responsibility mixed with a bit of care for the environment and some political accountability, and that's the magic potion that we need in Canberra to try and sort them out in Canberra, because there's a lot of self-interest. We've got lobbyists that dominate the halls of Canberra. We need more and more candidates like myself and some of those great independents that are up there to try and flush the system out a little bit and make sure that they're working for the best interests of the community and not just themselves, which unfortunately that's how a lot of these people operate up in Canberra.
Well, Heath, before we let you go, what about preferences? Where are you thinking? What are you thinking? Are you prepared to disclose?
Yeah, look, so obviously with the lower house, it's not there's not as much of that backroom dealing as what you see in the Senate. So our approach is a bit different to other parties. We give people the option if they want it to end up with, assuming Labor and Liberal are going to be the top two candidates in this race, which if you go off previous elections, that's the safe bet. But if you look at Labor. If you want your vote to ultimately end up with Labor, we give you an option there. If you want it to ultimately end up with Liberal, we leave it there. And that's probably just around that transparency. I think voters really like to have a bit more control over their vote, and they like to feel like they have the power. I mean, voting is one of the most powerful things we can do in this country, and it's probably undervalued by many. And we like to be quite transparent about that. Whereas, and I've been actively telling people at the pre-polls, look, here's an indication of where you can vote, but it's absolutely up to you. If you want to, I haven't made any deals with anyone. Obviously, I actually think we're going to get quite a lot of 2s and 3s. I'm hoping we'll get quite a lot of 1s too, but I think we'll, even those that don't give us a 1, I think we're going to get a hell of a lot of the 2s and 3s, which means I think we'll do quite well once preferences are counted, which is, my anticipation on the night. But of course, the, March 2 is when it's all counted, and that's what counts. And the great thing is it's up to the people, which is what we'll respect.
And where will you be on the evening of March the 2nd?
Look, I love election. I hope, Brendon, it's one of my great loves in life is sitting in on an election night and watching Anthony Green and others in the tally room. And this is the first time I've run in an election, and I was, really looking forward to having that experience. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but I've got a pre-existing commitment with through my work. I work in the veggie industry, and we've got the Fresh State, who are the organisation that run the fruit and veg market in Epping. They've got their gala ball at Melbourne Town Hall, and I'll be in attendance there with no doubt a couple of phones, under the table, madly watching the results come in and looking to see how we go. But no doubt there'll be a chance to have a celebratory light beer at the end of it, and hopefully we just get that good result that we're after, and we've already achieved one of our objectives, which is a bit of awareness around the party, and also around what we're trying to achieve for the electorate. And really just, there's so much noise around this campaign, and so many stories being, or so many, I don't like to say lies, but so many fantasies being floated around, like, nuclear and this train line. I think it's amazing that between Peter Dutton and Nathan Conroy, they've promised us a $1.5 billion railway line that they're going to build for $900 million from opposition in 14 months, and with no one else on board. So it's really important that we're out there calling it out, and I just hope that media organisations like yours continue to pull them up on that, and make sure that the public are getting the best representation of the fact.
Representing the Australian Democrats at the upcoming Dunkley by-election is Heath McKenzie. Heath, thank you very much indeed for taking time. I hope you have a fabulous night on Saturday night, and you do have a couple of quiet ales, and you have your tranny or your phones glued to your ears on that particular evening. Good luck to you, and thank you very much indeed for your time, Heath.
No, thank you, and again, I really do appreciate how much time you're giving to all the candidates and to the people of Dunkley. Yeah, I really appreciate all the support I've had so far. It's been really warming to see the kindness shown to me, and this is an experience I'll remember forever. So thank you again for your time.
Fantastic. This is Genuine Local Radio. This is RPP FM. We're coming to you from our Bendigo Bank Mornington studios. We'll take a break. Don't forget, the top of the clock, we've got local news as well. RPP FM right the way across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula.
Authorised by ACAS Streak, Australian Democrats, NAM.